lengthy meeting?
I feel like I was on 2 weeks, but
I can get that.
I saw you're on the speaker list, so Sarah's got you.
Okay. Yeah, I was surprised to see it online so early, so.
We've been working.
I know you've had technical difficulties, so.
And staffing stuff, but I think we've got it figured out.
Okay.
I appreciate your patience.
Okay. Well, hopefully it'll be a slow night for you.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Good evening, everyone. This is the start of our annual meeting. We have a quorum with all board members present, along with Superintendent Taylor and Attorney Malone. If you will join me in standing and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will now hand the gavel over to Superintendent Taylor to run this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for a little clarity for the board, in making nominations for the chair and vice chair, a second is not required. A second is not required. Once all nominations have been made, a motion is made to close the nominations, and the motion is seconded. So I want to share that with you. The ballots will be handed out to each board member to vote and sign and pass to council, who will tabulate that. Rob Malone will tabulate it for us. And if we lack a majority, a second vote and a subsequent vote will be necessary if we have that. Remember that the ballots are a matter of public record. And so if there are no questions, I will ask, are there nominations for the position of chair for the Wake County Board of Education?
Dr. Taylor? I move to nominate Mr. Hegarty for Vice Chair Hegarty for Chair of the Board of Wake County.
Okay.
Board of Education, excuse me.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Dr. Taylor, I move we close nominations.
Okay, nominations are closed. If we could distribute the ballots. Okay.
Dr. Taylor, I've counted all of the ballots, and it's 9 votes for Mr. Haggerty and 0 votes for anyone else.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malone, and congratulations, Mr. Haggerty. Our new chair, and I'll turn the nominations for vice chair over to our new chair.
They're already jockeying for positions. Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and thank you all. Your support means a lot to me, and I look forward to working with all of you. Okay. So now on our agenda, we have the selection of our new vice chair. So at this point, I will open the floor. Are there any nominations for the office of Vice Chair of the Board of Education?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Tara Waters for Vice Chair.
All right, we have a nomination for Ms. Waters.
I move to close the nominations.
Mr. Swanson has moved that we close nominations. All in favor, or is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All right, I believe, Mr. Malone, if you have the ballots.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Edmonds.
can we appoint Ms. Waters by acclamation since there's no other nominations? Is that permitted?
We have explored that in the past, even though I think it may be our position in our hearts. We're not allowed by our procedure.
Thank you.
Yes, here you go.
We need to circle multiple times.
Here you go. Oh. Oh, okay. Well, no, because I got one here. All right. I think this one is mine. Is it yours? All right. If all the votes are in, Mr. Malone will tally them. Don't forget your purse. You're not going far.
Chair Haggerty, we have 8 votes for Tara Waters and 1 vote for Monica Johnson Hostler.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Malone. Congratulations, Ms. Waters. You have been duly elected our vice chair. At this point, if you would join us up here. All right. And so, Dr. Taylor, I believe on our agenda. All right, thank you. All right. So, as a point of procedure, do we need to conclude the leadership meeting to begin the general meeting? Or do we roll straight?
I just think you roll straight through.
All right, great.
She wants to be sure you're in front of your own name.
All right.
I'm not taking responsibility.
Okay. Tara.
Give us just a moment to transition. All right.
It's part of the superintendent's comments, so it'll be on the agenda.
All right. So at this point, we have already determined that we do have a quorum, and we have already gone through and recited the Pledge of Allegiance. So the next item on our agenda will be our superintendent's comments. And so, Dr. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do believe that this is something for our board chair, and so we want to pause for a moment. There is a recognition we want to make for our outgoing chair, so Chair Haggerty, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you. So, in any great moment, there's the joy of becoming the chair, and there's the joy of surrendering the chair. I'm not going to ask you which is better, but I do want to present this to you. And again, just as I said last time we met, so much appreciation for everything you've led us through for the past couple of years. Thank you so much,
Fred.
Lindsay. right, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to say as part of my comments, outgoing Chair Mahaffey, it was certainly my pleasure to get to know you during the interview process and the conversations that we had, and I knew that it would be a welcome opportunity to work with you while you were the chair. So I do thank you for all the support that you gave me during that time, and I know that as an outgoing chair, you will give that same support to our new chair, and he will have plenty of questions for you, as will I continue to have questions for you. So thank you for all that you've done as our chair. All right. I do want to take a brief moment to share comments concerning the tragic events that have taken place in our district at Southeast Raleigh High School. The one thing I'll say is that we want to continue to support both of the students and their families and the communities. And so this is something that we're still dealing with as a community. There was a Ministers Alliance that sponsored a march from Southeast Raleigh High School in support of the entire Southeast Raleigh school. And so I do wanted to share that. The participation showed that there's a need for support, a need for the support of the community for the school. And I participated in that event. It was a rainy Sunday around maybe 1 o'clock, but we still had nearly 200 people that showed up, and it showed to me the level of outpouring and support that the community is looking for, and so we appreciated that that event was held. As you all know, we had a community forum Monday night, and I'll say to the community that this board and this administration and the school knew and understood that the community wanted to be heard, and they wanted to have an opportunity to share their thoughts with us. And this forum allowed us to do that. There were nearly 500 people there. We had over 41 participants. There were 16 parents, I think, 16 community members, 6 students who did a really good job, and 3 staff members. And so there were some things that stood out to me, and I think they stood out to everyone that was able to be in this forum. And what the community shared was there will always be a concern for student safety. They made that clear at the forum that they want accountability for the school district regarding the well-being of their students. They want accountability for the community regarding the well-being of their students. But they also want personal accountability for the well-being of students. And one of the things that stood out to me most was a parent, I shouldn't call her a former parent, but her students graduated from Southeast Raleigh High School. And what she shared that night, I think, was one of the most powerful comments that was made, is that after her children graduated, she checked out. And she said that is an issue that she has to address personally because she knows that she has to be more involved. And I thought that was a powerful statement of personal accountability, and I just knew I had to share that. They wanted to know more about school safety, and they recognize that there are limits that we have as a board in terms of what we can share, but they wanted us to know that that is a concern to them. What I was glad to hear is that the parents also expressed concerns about the school being militarized. And they said this is not what we expect or want for the school, but they just want the reassurance that their children are safe, as do all parents. And they certainly appreciated the work of the Raleigh Police Department and the work that SROs are doing, and that training for SROs is far different than what it was 20 or 30 years ago. So these are the themes that came out. I think the one thing that we definitely recognized is that the students and the faculty and the parents wanted a fair depiction of Southeast Raleigh High School. They know and understand that they have not been viewed in a light that really reflects what they are as a school. They continue to talk about their status as a magnet school, that they have students receiving over $1 million in scholarships, and that they have students participating in events all across this county and this state. As a matter of fact, there's a spoken word event that's going to be held at the governor's office, and there were over 100 students across the state of North Carolina that are participating, and it's down to about 15 students, 12 from Wake County and 1 from Southeast Raleigh High School. And so these are the kinds of things that they want people to recognize that are great about the school. I think the thing that stood out the most is that they recognize that there's a community problem that requires community intervention. And what they want to see is a collective use of resources that are in the community. I think the great thing about this forum is that there were so many people that came forward to the mic and talked to us after about the resources that they want to offer to intervene on the behalf of students and parents that they know will ultimately benefit the school. And so I think it was great to hear that from the parents, from the community, that they are willing to engage. One of the more powerful things was, through all of the comments, people wanted to celebrate Eddie Hartnett's principal and his leadership during this time and what he means to that school and to those students. And so moving forward, my goal as superintendent is to convene a group. I hate to use the word task force, but I will use that to coalesce all of the resources that we have to benefit not only Southeast Raleigh High School, but every single student in Wake County. We recognize that there's a need for resources regarding mental health and social emotional learning and so many other things. And I want people to know that there is a tremendous amount of work taking place in the community now, but the light is not always shown on those efforts. And so we want people to know that those efforts need to continue, but we want to coordinate so that there can be a broader use of those resources, and we can take advantage of what it can do for our students. And so there is additional information that I'll be sharing with the board about this forum and other things as we move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. So if you are just joining us, we rolled in from our leadership meeting, our annual meeting, to our general meeting. It is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, and we are now in our regular board meeting. We've heard from the superintendent. I will just add, as my comments as chair, that, Wake County, here in Wake County, we have a great school system. We have great schools, and we have great staff. But sometimes we don't always do great for everyone. And when that happens, we have to admit that, and we have to pledge to do a better job. And sometimes when you've had a lot of success and when you've done some great things, change is hard because you don't want to risk messing up the good that you've done. But we know there's a demand for change, and we know that the best way to accomplish this change is through events like we had last night. If you all have followed Dr. Taylor's joining us here in his first 100 days, you know that community engagement is very important to him, to our district. It's important to everyone on this board. And so I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers, but I have a belief that we're going to do better, and the first step to that is more community engagement and more listening. And so that's my pledge to you all. We'll see where we go, but please continue to keep those paths of communication open, and please continue to be engaged in our school system. There were, I don't know how many speakers out of those hundreds of people that attended, at least 50, and we heard a lot of differences of opinion on some matters, but then we heard some universal ideas. We heard some consensus around their pride in the school, in the community, their love for the students, their love and support for the staff. And we're going to do everything we can to support that school, that community, and that staff. So thank you all, and that's my pledge to you. So with that, I'll turn it over to our new Vice Chair, Ms. Waters.
Thank you very much, and truly honored to serve in this capacity. I would really like to thank Dr. Taylor for lifting up those remarks so eloquently, and Chair Haggerty for also the commitment to Southeast Raleigh High School. One of the most poignant things for me as we have been in the community is the voice of our students. Our students are really passionate about their school, and they have expressed to us that they need support to be able to grieve and to heal, and so we are in it for the long haul to be able to coalesce all the resources and to build relationships that last. And so feel honored to be able to represent District 4, but also honored to see the commitment of the full board, both at the rally and both last night. The commitment among everyone collectively is what is going to allow us to be able to provide the resources, the support, and continue the great work that is being done by the school leader, Mr. Harden. And so very appreciative of all who continue to lift up expressions of empowerment and encouragement for the school community. And please know this continues to be a priority for us, our student safety, our student well-being, our student mental health, as well as the educators in the building. We must also uplift our educators. They have taken on many different roles in the last few days, and so want to continue to lift up everyone and our families and all who love and are part of the community. This is a journey that we're going to take together, and we're going to support one another and look for ways to continue to build community. If nothing else is taken out of what we do, it will be that the community will be the center of the work that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. And so now we'll go around the table for board comments. Let's start today with Ms. Caulfield. Are you ready? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll start with congratulations to the new board again. So my heart goes out to all the families who are suffering right now, all of the staff, the students in Southeast Raleigh, and all of our surrounding neighborhoods. I know it affects everyone. It's in all of our schools and all throughout our community. I'll continue to pray that we all find some peace as we navigate through all of this, and I'm praying for all three of those families. All of our students deserve a safe space to grow and learn. It is important that we focus on areas that they need to help them with their with everything that they need. Education is our job, and it comes with great responsibility. And it's one that I've never taken lightly. I never did, not in my home, when working with our teachers at school, in our community, and now here serving on the board. Prior to last week, I was thinking how it really is our duty as adults to create a safe space, and that's at home, in our town, at church, at work, in our schools, and it is what makes our community what we have. While it is our duty to focus on academics and life skills to give our students what they need to succeed in life, it is our responsibility to all come together for our children to be part of making that community great. It is a tribe. We'd all benefit from more mentors in our community, and we may have had one special person in our life that stood out, that changed our perspective, or made a pivotal moment for us. Our children would benefit from more mentors throughout our schools, and perhaps mentor roles that could work with our guidance counselors and help our children when there is an extra need. Like all that's being put before us this day and age. Growing up, there was always order. I always remember order. Children knew consequences, but more so respect. Respect for teachers and elders, respect for rules and boundaries, and we all understood empathy and kindness. And we, as adults, we had adults that defined and redefined our space, redirected that space when we got unruly, when we were not clear on what those boundaries were. Discipline, bullying, and mental health are topics that we cannot ignore, and they all intertwine. When one goes to the airport, we know that you don't shout out the word bomb. Why? Because you know what the consequence is going to be. You understood what was going to happen as a result. Excuse me. This guidance starts in elementary school, and that is absolutely a vital part of shaping our kids. And let them know what is acceptable behavior, what is expected, and what is right. What's acceptable when you're at school or when you're out in public. My hope is that we improve our partnership with our parents, community members at home in our schools, with programs like Dads on Duty in every one of our schools. That means that volunteers from our community. It means presence in our hallways. That means more adults representing the behavior we want our children to learn from. That, too, is a form of mentorship. I do not believe that improper behavior starts in an unruly classroom or a fight. Whether these things come from home or the community, once they come onto our bus and in our schools and our community, it then becomes our responsibility to take care of that, to take care of the students and staff, and to show these children that these are the things that are and are not normal. This is not okay. It is not to be tolerated, and there is another way to handle problems that they will have to face. I now anxiously look forward to hopefully discussing bullying and discipline policies and have them finally come to our table with a little bit more detail. It is a very important topic and one that we need to get control over in every one of our schools, for teachers, for our students, and for our families. It is time that we put our focus on what our children need and to prioritize the safety and well-being of our students and staff. That needs to be a priority for me. And we take much time speaking about equity, and I think it's time that we take and put equity in our safety and our mental health. We cannot continue without order and solutions. This needs to become a priority. Because if our children are not in a safe place in their mind and in a safe place in school, then they do not trust us and they cannot learn. They are reflecting on our behavior, they're reflecting and learning on what we put in front of them and our actions. And we all need to do better. We all need to put our agenda down and focus on what our children need to learn and to grow. And I do hope we do better. Wake County has so much to offer, and we are a great network of schools. We have so many programs available and so many amazing, incredible teachers. Let's all make a commitment to work together and give our children the gift that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caulfield. We'll switch over and go to Mr. Hershey.
I thought you were going around the table. First, let me just congratulate former chair Mahaffey on, I really am thankful for your guidance and leadership during my first year on the board. It was a lot that we didn't expect to be doing necessarily, but I am thrilled with the result of having Dr. Taylor here now. And I want to congratulate our new chair and vice chair, and I look forward to your leadership and wise words as we go through this next year. I want to start by saying that I just want to thank everyone who showed up to Southeast Raleigh High School last night, for those that spoke, but also for those that were just there. I want to thank our staff for being there and for listening, not just our superintendent and Vice Chair Waters, but also the rest of the staff that was there. It's important for our families to know. It was probably more staff there last night than is here right now, and that's a reflection of how much we care and the need to listen. So I want to just commend staff for being there and thank them for being there. I know there will be a lot more words by my fellow board members about it, but it was moving, and I too hope that we recognize the need to show tangible improvements, as I take that word from Vice Chair Waters. I think that is very important to show our communities that we are responding. As I move past that for a few other comments, yesterday morning was District 3's DECA competition at the Raleigh Convention Center. We had 2,500 students or so, not all Wake County Public School students, but I had a number of students that I was judging for that were at Panther Creek or Apex Friendship or Broughton, and it was really remarkable, their creativity, their poise. For those that don't know, they have 30 minutes to put together a presentation, and then they get judged on it. And they did an excellent job. Yeah, they were very impressive, to say the least. I spoke with Dr. Taylor about this, and he knows that this question is coming, but in light of how we changed our safety and security meeting last week, I was intending to bring up the suggestion that the primary election day become perhaps a teacher work day, given how many of our schools are precinct centers. And I just wanted to ask you about that process. And so if we do make the change, our families can know as far in advance as possible. I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, but we'll explore the options, and I'll share those with the chair and the vice chair and the board, and we'll bring that to you.
Thank you, sir. We have a BAC meeting tomorrow at Douglas Elementary School from 12 to 1. We will be discussing transportation issues, bell schedules, and what we can do to better support and celebrate our bus drivers and transportation staff. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you, Chair Haggerty.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Dr. Ng, if you're ready.
Thank you. And again, congratulations to our new chair and vice chair and our outgoing chair, Mahaffey. Thank you for all that you've done, prior to me coming on, but also kind of helped let me know about the drinking from the fire hose. But I will keep this short. These are very difficult times for everyone, and I share with you all the feelings that of shock and grief over the tragedies this past week. And what happened really kind of reminded me of how precious life is. As someone who works in the field of healthcare, and I see death, that happens in my line of work, it's still hard to process loss when it happens to a young person. And I recently had to deal with a tragic loss of a young life in my own community. And I was reminded by a deacon that there is no script for how we process grief and tragedy. To quote his words to the young people, some students may be understandably more upset and emotional. Other students, even some who know him well, may seem less emotional or not externally upset at all. This is both okay and normal. We can't expect others to grieve the way we do or judge others for how they do or do not grieve. So I do hope and pray that people who are hurting will find healing and comfort through the bonds of their family, their community, and the churches. And please know that no matter how bad things may seem at times, that you are not alone. In times like this, I do try to seek comfort and strength from God's Word. In Psalm 147:3, it says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." And in Isaiah 41:10, it says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. Mr. Swanson, are you ready?
Thank you. I too want to join and just offer my condolences to the families, Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School, and continue to lift those families and school leaders and teachers with love and prayer as they enter into a new normalcy and reimagine what that new normal will look like. In addition, I also want to lift up the family of the young man at Cary High School who was tragically killed. And to your point, Dr. Ng, life is very short and precious, and so we have to take care of those loved ones and wrap your arms around them as often and as much as you can, because no person knows no person knows when it might be the last. So I just offer my condolences to all of those families and continue to lift up the Cary High School community as well with love and support. And I also want to announce that my December Board Advisory Committee meeting will take place on December 11th at West Cary Middle School, so next Monday. In lieu of Dr. Taylor joining us in January, we'll do some breakouts and table talk discussions about some big ideas and big topics that I've heard Ms. Monica Johnson-Hostler talk about. So we're going to try it in District 9 to see how it works. So we will be coming up with some questions, Dr. Taylor, and on your theme of listening, learning, and leveling up as a district. So excited for that. And I also want to say I had the great pleasure of spending Sunday pretty much with Dr. Taylor and Ms. Johnson-Hostler and Ms. Waters for a couple of church tours and the march at Southeast Raleigh, and just to see how communities come together. And oftentimes it's sad that we come together as a community in moments like this, but I'm hoping that there's some lessons and some new opportunities that grows and blossoms from this, so we do not have to keep coming together in tragedies, and that we can come together as a community to celebrate the great things that all of our schools are doing. And so I look forward to using my voice and doing whatever I can to show up and for those communities, because our schools are our communities, and it takes all of us to really do the work each and every day. And so I believe those are all of my announcements, and if I forgot anything, please charge it to my head and not my heart. And lastly, congratulations to our new leadership and to Chair Mahaffey, former Chair Mahaffey. Thank you for your leadership and to guiding us through that first year. I mean, it's literally been a year today, and who would have thought that in that year we would have went through a budget process, hiring a superintendent, and drinking from a water hose with grace. So thank you for that, and I look forward to you all's leadership and pushing this district forward as we do so. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Water hose seems very gentle. I just got a much nicer.
All right, Ms. Edmonds.
Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you for being willing to serve in this way. And thank you, Ms. Mahaffey, for your service and leadership. The community of students and staff at Southeast Raleigh High School continue to be in my prayers as well. And I want to thank Dr. Taylor and Ms. Waters in particular for your leadership during this time. I really appreciated one thing that Dr. Taylor said, which is that this terrible tragedy is not an indictment on this school, on this principal, or the students, and it's not an indictment on the community. I felt that was just so eloquently and perfectly stated, so thank you for that. I agree with that, and it is my hope that people will continue to apply to Southeast Raleigh during the magnet application period, which is open right now, and continuing through the end of January. I think families choosing this school would be a wonderful way to show our collective support. This tragedy strengthens my resolve to work with this board and other community leaders to ensure we have the staff our schools need and that children have the supports they need to be successful. That starts in early, very early from our pre-K classrooms up through high school. We can and should have conversations about building security, locked doors, facility needs, but we have to do that in tandem with talking about providing our children the supports they need to be successful. School counselors, school social workers, school psychologists, and school nurses. Some say that we waste money on SEL and equity. No, I reject that. When children learn empathy, good communication skills, conflict resolution, how to deal with their feelings, when they learn all that at an early age, they're better equipped to respond to conflict without violence. And those are skills that we can and must teach in public schools. I know this board and our staff are committed to student safety and well-being, and we will do the work necessary to improve and be better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Ms. Johnson-Hostler?
Thank you, and congratulations to our leadership. I look forward to our continued work and all of the commitments that you've already spoke to, Mr. Haggerty. I look forward to working shoulder to shoulder with each of you. To former Chair Mahaffey, thank you for your leadership and your friendship. It goes without saying that I hope I bestowed both wisdom and the ability to let go of all the things that you saw me do wrong. I feel a great deal of, we talked about this last time, that this week particularly is officially my 10th year on the board. And so I feel like I've watched you two grow up. And I feel a maternalistic feel of being very gracious and grateful for both of you being committed to this work for the long haul. So thank you both.
Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, I mean, it's for the record, Mr. Haggerty always says, "You're my chair," because I was chair when he came onto the board. So yeah, now you're my chair. I can say it in return. But again, thank you very much for your leadership. And both of you, all three of you, will be leading through times that none of us wish we ever had. And so for that, I am grateful for you being willing to be steadfast in leadership at a time that none of us hoped we'd ever see, but we're here. And I firmly believe that things are divinely ordered, and so certainly the people who should be leading do lead. And it is not easy, and it is also self-sacrifice to lead in times like this, which makes me equally grateful for our superintendent for having already agreed to show up in the community. We had already planned to visit churches over the next month or two, which I think spoke volumes to people to know that it wasn't for show that we showed up at Southeast Raleigh High School on Monday, but that your commitment is truly, truly for me one of the reasons that I would say that you stood out and why you're here. And again, it's divine. We couldn't have saw this, but indeed, your kindness, but directness, and the ability to take responsibility when needed, but also as a leader to ensure that we are wrapping our arms around Southeast Raleigh High School and ensuring that there is a hierarchy. And you were very eloquently spoke to that last night to ensure that Dr. Harden did not bear the burden, whether people said it or not. And for those who weren't in the room that may have thought it, you dispel that. So thank you also for your leadership at this time. It goes without saying that that what we've experienced in our community as a district will forever change all of our lives. But more specifically for those that it is their home. And I think that's the only thing that I will say that hasn't been said, because I echo all the things that my colleagues have said regarding the last couple of days and what we heard from the community. But schools are not just buildings, they're the people that are there. And so that is the one thing that I will remind people of is whatever you say and however you say it, remember that it is someone's physical home. And it's the people in the building that make the home. And so I ask that you continue to be respectful and shower them with love. And remember, as several people said last night, including Dr. Taylor, this could have been anywhere. And I certainly personally will say, I knew my marching orders 10 years ago when I was elected to this board. The commitment is renewed. The commitment is renewed to our students and our community and listening to those voices. And now that we've figured out how to physically not be in Cary but engage our community, it is also my expectation. So I will end on thank you, Chair Haggerty, for noting that we will continue to actively be physically engaged in our communities who don't always have complete access to us, so that we will become more accessible to our community. So thank you for your commitment.
Thank you. Chair, I nearly did it. Immediate past Chair Mahaffey.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty, and congratulations to you and to you, Vice Chair Waters. I know that you two will lead this district with grace and integrity, and I am thrilled to have voted for you. And, I was very honored last year to be named chair, especially when there were 5 people that I didn't really know and that didn't really know me. So thank you for sticking with me through thick, thin, and a superintendent retirement and hiring process and an interim superintendent, and I really greatly appreciate it. I can't say more than what's already been said, but I'm going to try just a little bit. Sitting in the audience and seeing Dr. Taylor and Vice Chair Waters, along with Mr. Harden and Chief Patterson, speak to a community that has been hurt, that's looking for answers, that wants to know that they are seen, that they are heard, that meant a lot. And I just want to lift that up. Dr. Taylor, it's been 65 days as of today. So thank you for jumping in with a full heart and both feet. And Ms. Waters, you always know and have the pulse on your community and what they need and what they are asking for. And I just appreciate the work that you all did to throw that together, to know that was the thing that your community needed in this time. So I just want to honor that and lift that up, because we really look to you, Ms. Waters, on what did Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School need in this time as board members. And I just want to reiterate, it is a phenomenal school. I will never forget my first interaction with them was at their graduation when I was a new board member, and the chorus blew me away. The joy of graduation blew me away, and there is no graduation to this day like a Bulldog graduation. And if you haven't been, board members, I highly recommend you show up this year. They are a magnet school of distinction. They have won STEM awards. They are an IB school. They have multiple career academies, including an Academy of Biomedical Science and Academy of Engineering and Information Technology. Both use Project Lead the Way, which is a project-based learning curriculum where you see the whole and then build to the sum of its parts. And it is an incredible piece. And having middle schoolers that have taken a class in Project Lead the Way, it is phenomenal. And so I hope that those pieces, because we also heard very clearly, and Dr. Taylor lifted this up briefly, that the good of this school needs to be lifted up. It needs to be lifted up not just in times of tragedy, but in times of joy. And they have a talent show coming up next week. And there is a lot of talent in that school, guys. A lot of talent. And I think it's important to look for joy. I want to congratulate all of the Teacher of the Year winners for our 198 schools. Those are all officially out there and announced. A lot of work ahead for the nominating committee to get to our Teacher of the Year finalists. There are a lot of excellent, excellent people nominated from each and every one of our schools. I want to lift up the Holly Grove Elementary School garden. The Hedgies have donated 116.7 pounds of fresh produce to the Holly Springs Food Cupboard, and it is one of my favorite Facebook accounts to follow, mostly because I love food. But they are doing incredible work over there. And lastly, 120 athletes from 5 of our high schools participated in the Special Olympics at Green Level High School last week. Many thanks to Green Level for opening up their walls and doors for these athletes, and many thanks to the police departments that have always supported the Special Olympics. And I said that was last, but I also want to lift up our many marching bands that have participated in parades over this weekend and the last couple of weekends. It is always one of the more joyful parts of a parade. So thank you, Chair Haggerty.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mahaffey. Having concluded board comments, we'll now turn to the agenda for this meeting. Is there a motion pertaining to the agenda?
So moved.
I heard a couple motions, but we'll take one from Ms. Johnson-Hostler and then a second from Ms. Mahaffey. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now on our agenda, we will move to public comment. and I will have to look at my cheat sheet here. I apologize. I'll get this down in the future. Turning to public comment, speakers commenting on items on tonight's agenda will be heard before speakers commenting on other topics. All other speakers will be heard in the order of sign-up. Only the person speaking at the podium will be able to stand. Again, all attendees that are not speaking are to remain seated. If you have to leave the room, please do not remain in the building, as only this room is open to the public after hours. If the public comment portion of the agenda exceeds 30 minutes, board policy states that the chair reserves the right to conduct the other board business before inviting the remaining speakers to the podium. Members of the public are welcome to offer comments or criticism directed at substantive ideas, actions, or procedures of the board and individual board members. The laws and policies of North Carolina provide that issues or concerns involving individual personnel and individual student matters are confidential and therefore not appropriate for public comment settings. Those offering comments to the board, including students, may discuss issues and matters of general concern. Concerns related to personnel issues or other student matters, again, may be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, and other applicable policies. In the interest of maintaining civility and decorum, speakers are encouraged to address their comments to the Board of Education and must refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, or members of the general public. Please remain at the podium during your speaking time. Any materials you wish to share with the board should be handed to our board attorney, Mr. Malone, either before or after your comments, and these will go to the board members and into the public record. During public comment, you may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please note that the microphones are adjustable. When you see the green light at the podium, it will illuminate to show that your 3 minutes have begun. Typically, it won't begin until you begin speaking. A yellow light will light up with an audible tone when there are 30 seconds remaining in your time. When your speaking time is up, you will see the red light and hear another audible tone. When your time is up, the next speaker will be called to the podium. So speakers are asked to respect the time limit and speak for no more than 3 minutes. You may choose, of course, to speak for less. And at that concludes our preamble. So let me go to our list of speakers tonight. As pursuant to our new board policy, we do give students priority. We have one student on our public speaker slate tonight. Rowan Bilodeau. Rowan?
I'm always going first. Good evening, board members, and happy December. As I'm sure you know, we have the holidays coming up, and that's what I want to talk about. I think the fact that the largest religion in the U.S. is Christianity makes us forget that not everyone around us is Christian. Christmas is a Christian holiday, and Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday, and Kwanzaa is an African holiday. Yule and the winter solstice are a pagan holiday. All of these holidays happen in mid to late December, but they're all different. Something that I notice is that every December, everything everywhere is covered in Christmas decorations, even my school. There may be some Hanukkah and Kwanzaa decorations off in the corner somewhere, but Christmas is always front and center. I don't celebrate Christmas. My family celebrates Yule and the winter solstice. I don't have any issues with Christmas or people who celebrate it. It's just that it's not a part of my beliefs. I know that Christmas is the most celebrated winter holiday in the U.S., but that doesn't mean that other holidays should be overlooked and not represented. Something quite beautiful about this country is that we have so much diversity. The fact that diverse people aren't respected is a different speech. Every diverse culture can and should be respected and represented. When I was in elementary school, we did all sorts of themed assignments and make decorations for the winter. However, it was all Christmas stuff. Never once did we draw a Star of David or a Canara or a pentacle. It's important for kids to learn about the traditions and customs of other cultures aside from just their own. That is not to shame Christians or erase Christmas. It's to acknowledge that not each and every student in school celebrates Christmas, so other holidays should be represented. Just today, one of my teachers asked if I was looking forward to Christmas, to which I replied, I actually don't celebrate Christmas, and he said, oh, and looked away. I wonder how he would react if I told him that I was a pagan. Freedom of religion is a right for everybody in the U.S., and it should stay that way in schools. On the surface, it is, but teachers seem to just assume that their students are all Christian, and when finding out otherwise, they act weird. I just really wanted to say that I think every student should feel welcome and represented in their classes in terms of everything.
Thank you. We'll now turn to our speakers who are on agenda, and the first speaker is Becky Lou Hobbs. Ms. Lou Hobbs will be followed by Ben Chapman. Good evening.
I hope this room would have been a little more fuller after last night. But I'm Becky Lou Hobbs. part of Moms for Liberty and a mom. And one of my students does go to Southeast Raleigh High School. But I'm here tonight, I actually have some comments regarding policy 1310 on the parental involvement, and just a few comments. There's some things in it, talks about regular two-way communication. It refers to that several times. We all know that the principal is the gatekeeper of communication with the schools. And as somebody mentioned, we have 198 schools, so that means there's going to be 198 ways that happens. So there needs to be some guidelines given to the principals in how to do that, because I know my experience and experience of the people that I know, communication has been vastly different. I have principals that are fantastic, including Principal Harden, but there are others that not so much. So there needs to be some guidelines to that, a little more information. The other thing in the policy was it talks about parental training in a few different areas. Now, I know a lot of this is in response to the Parents' Bill of Rights, but nowhere in the Parents' Bill of Rights does it talk about parental training. It talks about parental rights. It talks about communication with parents. So this really is going a step too far. And there's not a lot of stress on volunteer. When you're looking at how things are listed, volunteering is last. It's talking about parent training and parent education, and then volunteering is the last thing on the list, which brings me to another point regarding the communication, is those volunteer opportunities that I personally am desperate for, we don't find out about. There needs to be a better communication from the schools to how we can volunteer in various ways, because there's a million ways to volunteer, not just going to the classroom. There's coming to paint lockers, there's landscaping, there are so many different projects that the schools have, and there's not a consistent way that this is conveyed to parents who really want to help, but they need the information to know what to volunteer for. I'm going to kind of skip ahead because I did want to say a little bit. I'll email the rest to you. But I do want to say my son has thrived at Southeast Raleigh High School, and I do know it's been spoken poorly of a lot in the public, but it is a really good school. But there's a lot of needs there, I will say that. I can't tell you how thankful I am on how well he's thrived, because he really has done better at that school than any others. But I also want to say thank you to that SRO. I know she got there very quickly and was able to put a stop to things, and knowing that knows that she probably prevented some kids being hurt. I can't imagine how bad it could have gotten if she wasn't there. So I really want you to rethink how you think about SROs. She's highly trained, she's vested in that community. Her daughter graduated from that community. So we need to look at that better. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Ben Chapman, and Ben Chapman will be followed by Ms. Diane Chandler.
Good evening. Hello again to the Wake Board of Education. My name is Ben Chapman, and I'm a proud graduate of Millbrook High School, class of 2012. Go Wildcats. So I want you to reject policy 1310. SB 49 is a brazen attempt by the General Assembly to scapegoat and bully. The curriculum ban is illogical, absurd, and unenforceable. The forced outing policy is a uniquely contemptible provision that has no place within the laws of a civil and just society. Gay and lesbian couples have been legally married in North Carolina since October 2014. Obergefell v. Hodges in 2015 overturned all remaining state bans. The decision concludes, quote, "They ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution grants them that right." It's the only Supreme Court precedent I have on a fridge magnet. I want someone to explain to me how or why the 2022 platform of the Republican Party of North Carolina states, quote, "We support the marriage amendment as a part of the North Carolina Constitution and encourage all efforts to defend it." I want someone to explain to me why every House Republican voted against the Respect for Marriage Act of 2022. My limited understanding of contract law is that you can't undo marriage equality. Tens of thousands of marriages cannot be nullified. If the party that sponsored and passed this bill has an incomplete understanding of legal reality, then we can safely ignore when they pass unconstitutional laws. Furthermore, if they are rejecting basic civil rights, you have a moral obligation to oppose them. In closing, I want to suggest that the Wake Board of Education consider recognizing LGBT History Month in October 2024. This is the 30th anniversary of the first LGBT History Month, 1994. I am a few months older than the first celebration, and I think it would make a really impactful statement for LGBT parents, staff at Wake County Schools, and the children themselves. I recall learning about Black history when I was at Wake County Public Schools, and learning about diverse perspectives only enriches all students' experience. So maybe a task force, I heard that mentioned, just something to consider. Thank you for your time and your service.
All right. Our next speaker is Ms. Diane Chandler, followed by Margaret Bilodeau. Oh, there you go.
Okay, congratulations, Chair Haggerty. I know we have always had fair and productive conversations, so I hope that's a good future for the whole board. Thank you. Okay, so I want to do a quick note on policy 1310, only one section. The section on instruction on gender identity, sexual activity, and sexuality. There's a phrase where it defines curriculum, and at the end it says, but does not include responses to student-initiated questions. This phrase needs to be removed. It is a way to circumvent the law. As a former teacher, there's a simple response as a teacher if a student asks you a question that should not be covered in curriculum. That's a great question. It's not going to be covered in our curriculum, but that's a great question to go home and ask your parents. And a discussion. I find it kind of insulting and laughable that one of the goals you have promoting responsible parenting. That's not your lane. Stay in your lane. How about we promote responsible school boarding first? Okay, so that's what I want to say about policy 1310. I want to talk about the Southeast Raleigh incident, and I don't have it written out because I kind of wanted to hear what you all would say first. And honestly, I'm disappointed in almost all of your comments, except for Ms. Caulfield. You took responsibility for it, and that's the way you should have been. Other times, there have been school shootings that have not even been in our county, and it's all about public outcry, and parents who own guns need to take responsibility, talking about actions that need to be taken, laws that need to be making. Silence from you on this, okay? You have failed these students. Wake County Schools have failed these students. All the talk about equity and diversity, yes, is their wasted. Because what did it do to these students? What help did it do? When you're being pummeled on the ground, talking about feeling is not going to help you. Okay? So you have failed the students. Where were the adults? The mother had told the school that this might happen. My kids had to wear blue for bullying, but when a real bully situation is brought in front of you, what do? There are no metal detectors. That would have detected the knife. Okay? Only one SRO who thankfully stopped other people from being hurt. There could be more.
All right. Thank you, Ms.
You
Chandler.
are responsible.
All right. Our next speaker is Margaret Bilodeau. Then we will go to our off-agenda speakers. First speaker then will be Melanie Harris. Thank you, Ms. Bilodeau.
Hello, Superintendent, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to speak about policies 4240 and 1310. According to RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 34% of children who are victims of sexual abuse are aged 12 or younger. Yet policy 4240 directly hampers awareness and advocacy until 6th grade, by which point those most vulnerable children have already endured years of abuse conditioning. According to data collected by the Ann E. Casey Foundation in North Carolina specifically, of children who are confirmed by Child Protective Services as victims of any form of maltreatment, 35% are between the ages of 0 and 4, 35% are between the ages of 5 and 10, and a further 15% are between the ages of 11 and 13. Surveys, awareness, advocacy, and intervention addressing any form of childhood maltreatment is absolutely essential at every grade level. We have to ask ourselves, who exactly is this policy and law protecting? Certainly not children like Gabriel Fernandez or Zara Baker. Policy 1310 significantly impacts K through 4 augmented communication users and children with language-based learning disabilities. Let me remind you, my 7-year-old WCPSS student is in the beginning stages of language acquisition. He doesn't yet demonstrate mastery of pronouns, let alone how to use them. Public school is where his language acquisition is required to be provided and where he will learn the language of identifying his own family. Pronouns are in Wake County's core curriculum in K through 4. The singular they, them has been in common use for my whole life, however, has been given negative attention fairly recently. Having been raised by a strict grammarian, I've been made fun of throughout my life and told that I'm stuck up for following grammar rules and not using singular they, them pronouns, even though it wasn't exactly as if I had a choice. Now that the singular they, them pronouns are grammatically acceptable, we pretend that they weren't more or less universally already in common use. Children like mine and all children have their own thoughts, their own opinions, and they have the right to autonomy. They also have a legal right to access vocabulary to express those thoughts and opinions. Once again, I will point out that the state legislator directly violated IDEA by denying the right to public comment on SB 49. This was reported on by various news organizations. I was present and slotted to speak. I am a reason right here for the district to refuse to comply with a law that was passed in direct violation of IDEA. My rights were violated, my non-speaking child's rights were violated, the rights of everyone in North Carolina were violated when the NCGA made the decision that they don't have to follow federal law and protections if they don't like them. It is clear that protected classes are being targeted by this legislation. The state should bear the brunt of the legal consequences of their actions. We as a district should not create policies that are in direct conflict with federal law. IDEA, FAPE, and Title IX are all very clear about access to language and communication as well as who is protected from bias and discrimination. I ask the board to reaffirm our commitment to creating safe, inclusive, and nurturing learning environments for every child. Do not pass policies to comply with the discriminatory law that was passed with careless disregard for federal legal procedural safeguards. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Melanie Harris. Melanie Harris will be followed by Bishop Patrick Dewberry. Good evening, Ms. Harris.
Hi, everybody. I want to first start off by saying I appreciate you guys coming to Southeast Raleigh High School yesterday for the forum. I really appreciate it because, like I stated, I am a Wake County school bus driver, as you guys know, and I am a proud Bulldog first-year parent. So just the fact that you guys showed up and you came with an open heart and open mind, thank you. However, there's still some things that I feel should be done differently moving forward. I would like personally to see that we create some type of pipeline or chain where we can start holding parents accountable for their students' actions, because as a bus driver, my job is not to discipline anyone's child. My job is to transport and get them where they need to go in a timely and safely manner, because that's what my job description says. But when I have to stop my bus route in order to tell someone's child to get out of the window, to stop bullying another kid, or to keep their hands to themselves, that creates a problem. Like last night when you guys were told about the issues that happen in the neighborhoods, whatever happens in the neighborhoods, it spills onto the school bus and then it spills over into the schools, which is why most of the time the kids can't learn what they need to learn, because the teachers are spending a large majority of time telling telling kids, you know, your behavior, you're doing too much. Basically what I think should happen as an employee and as a parent is that For parents who change their phone numbers or block the schools from calling, or when the teachers try to tell them about what's going on, I think you guys should open back up Virtual Academy and send those students home. Let their parents deal with that, because it's a lot of instructional time being wasted. For the kids who misbehave on the school buses, and the schools don't necessarily want to suspend them off of the buses because they say they will not be able to get to school, that's okay. They all have Chromebooks. I do believe that metal detectors do need to be put inside of schools, and the kids do need clear backpacks. I've been a bus driver for 11 years, and there was a case one time where a bus driver was driving a group of kids over at Athens High School, and a kid maced another kid, and because the mace, engulfed the bus, everybody had to get off. So it's not like we don't know that these behaviors are happening, but it starts at the core, which is the parents. Start holding these parents accountable, and I do believe that the behavior will be cut in half. Because it's not just a Southeast Raleigh thing, it's a North Raleigh thing, a West Raleigh thing, it's a whole Wake County public school thing. So I think once we get the behavior under control, things will change. So thank you
Ms.
guys for
Harris.
everything.
All right. Next up is Bishop Patrick Dewberry. Bishop Dewberry here? Going once? All right. Next up, Ms. Geraldine. And then our last speaker would be Michelle Morrow, if she is here. All right, Ms. Geraldine, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. It's really good to be with you. I want you to know I wanted to be here so bad I caught a Uber that's waiting for me outside, okay? That's how bad I wanted to be here. And I wanted to be here tonight because last night I did an introduction, and I said that I was leading the CELT movement. And I want to tell you all I'm going to give you the feedback, and I'm going to give you even how I felt. But I'm also going to talk about a solution too, so bear with me. When I sat there last night, and because I have talked to the parents in the community, I have a kind of perspective of everything. The truth, what's not the truth, and somewhere in between. But when I was there last night, and I had time to think about it, there were 3 children that were harmed at that school. There were 3 children. I only heard you talk about 1. There was a child who lost his life. There was a child who could have lost their life because they were being bullied. And there was another child who was stabbed. All 3 were victims. And there's no way that we should, first of all, that we should have had any comments last night as a school without acknowledging all of those children. I hear my sister over here, and I'm going to talk to you folks when you talk about nobody ought not to have parenting. Yes, they should. Yes, they should. Everybody don't have what you have. Everybody don't have what you got. So there are some who have not had parenting training, and they give the very best that they have. So yes, they need some help. And a lot of times they're not going to go and ask for the help. So sometimes it has to be mandated, a policy dated, that they get that help.
And Ms. Alshimi, if you
they
could,
do.
please direct.
I'm back. And it is the combination of this school district, the community, and the home, the school, and the community. We got to stop punishing people because they don't come from where we come from. Because that's what I saw last night. And people got out and said, well, they cared more about the perception of the school than they cared about the children. That hurts. That hurts. And so what I'm going to wrap this up and do like the man said, give me a few minutes. What I'm going to ask people to do is this right here. Because the core principle of all our problems, and we've been talking about it for a long time, is bullying. Let's stop denying. Let's stop lying. And let's stop playing the queen's role the Queen, that everything is all right over in the palace. No, it's not.
All right.
And I'm going to come back when you,
Thank you, Ms. Alshimi.
no, you know what I'm talking about.
All right. That concludes our public comment period. Thank you. And again, just as a reminder to everyone, please do address your comments to the board table and to all the individuals here. All right? We really hate to have to interrupt anybody, but we also have to have compliance with our rules and our procedures. All right? Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll move out of public comment to the rest of our agenda. You all have seen our proposed consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
There's a motion from Ms. Mahaffey, second from Ms. Johnson-Hostler. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. We'll now move to the action items on our agenda. We'll give a minute for staff to come up. Okay, our first item is waiver of board policy 8101. Mr. Nieder, are you presenting?
Yes, sir.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Haggerty, members of the board, and Superintendent Taylor. A few weeks ago, during Tricia Posey's, our finance officer's presentation of the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report at your November Finance Committee meeting, she shared that the amount of unassigned fund balance as of June 30, 2023, resided at $52.6 million. This compares to an unassigned fund balance of $46.5 million 1 year prior on June 30, 2022. The increase year over year was driven by staffing vacancies and the continued use of federal pandemic relief funds. This school board does not have taxing authority, and maintaining an unassigned fund balance is one of the only tools available to the school board to manage any significant unanticipated expenditures or other fiscal emergencies. Board Policy 8101 directs that the board maintain an unassigned fund balance no more than 6% of a subsequent year's county appropriation, and that any amounts in excess of that be returned to the county. The June 30, 2023 amount of unassigned fund balance represents approximately 8% of that figure. We are asking tonight the board's consideration of waiving board policy, or this component of board policy 8101, such that the full $52.6 million can be retained and used as a tool, a fiscal tool, to manage through the known issues as we face the end of ESSER funding, the federal pandemic relief funds, at the end of this fiscal year, to assist with that transition and any other unforeseen potential emergencies. The school board can only maintain an unassigned fund balance in the local section of its budget. That said, it's used as a tool to manage the very things I've been speaking about for the entire $2.1 billion operating budget. And again, to give some context, I believe Ms. Posey shared this with you at the Finance Committee meeting. The amount of unassigned fund balance of $52.6 million represents about 2% of our overall operating budget, and would be enough funding to fund the district to run for about somewhere between 6 and 7 days. So I now, with that, ask the board's consideration of approval of waiving board policy 8101.
Thank you, Mr. Nieder. So staff has requested a waiver of board policy 8101. At this point, it'd be appropriate to entertain a motion, and then we can open it up for discussion.
So moved.
There's a motion from Ms. Johnson-Hostler, second from Mr. Swanson. Is there any discussion? Any questions? All right, good job, Mr. Nieder. We'll now take a vote. All in favor of waiver of board policy 8101, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the waiver is passed. Thank you, Mr. Nieder. The next item on our agenda is board policy 1310. parental involvement, first reading. Good evening, Ms. Crane.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I bring to you Policy 1310-4002, Parental Involvement, for first reading. The policy was written by the North Carolina School Boards Association and is part of the Policies to Lead the Schools manual. We're bringing it as a part of our policy migration project. The policy was discussed at the October 24th and November 28th Policy Committee meetings. Staff made a couple of revisions to the policy based on feedback and requests from the Policy Committee at our last meeting. Hyperlinks to other policies have been added throughout the text of the policy. We also added language in Section E on page 12 and Section F on page 13 to clarify that references to days or business days do not include Saturdays, Sundays, vacation days, or holidays as set forth in the school calendar. And counting days, the first day will be the first full business day following the receipt of the written request. This language is consistent now in both sections. Once adopted, the policy will replace current policy and RMP 2541, Parent and Family Involvement. Tonight, we request your approval on the first reading of Policy 1310-4002.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Crane. So at this point, is there a motion to approve Board Policy 1310, parental involvement, on first reading? And then we'll have any discussion or questions for Dr. Crane.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion from Ms. Johnson-Hostler. We have a second by Ms. Edmonds. Are there any board comments or any questions for Dr. Crane? Ms. Caulfield.
Thank you for that. I just have a question in reference to the responsible parenting. Could you clarify what is meant by that?
Sure. The responsible parenting is in a list of other items that are spelled out in the state school board policy PRNT 000. So the reference to responsible parenting is not something that we chose to include, but it is listed in the State Board of Education policy manual.
Ms. Caulfield, any follow-up?
I did not actually review that PRNT 000, but my other question was going to be if it was something that the school was providing, do we have resources that we will be providing for the parents?
I think in the way that we have spelled it out in our policy is that it's going to be part of our strategic plan, and each school will have a parental involvement program. So those resources are not currently developed, but will be developed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or any other board comments? Looking around, Dr. A.
I just wanted to kind of respond to one of the comments earlier about having, principals, communications, and yeah, I brought that up in the policy meeting as well, that, there should be some guidelines that the principals should follow in terms of how to communicate and how to bring forth all these, information to the parents so that there's not great discrepancies between schools. So, thank you.
So, Dr. Crane, I know it'll take some time, but do you anticipate then writing rules and procedures for the policy? And if so, is that something you could bring back and share with the board?
At this time, I do not know if there is a plan to provide any R&P. I do know that as far as parental involvement plans, that it will be part of the work of our strategic plan as we roll those out, those parental involvement plans in the development at different schools. Let me put my sentences together there in the right order.
That was my update.
That was your update?
All
Okay.
right. Thank you. Any follow-up? Any further questions? All right, then. If there's no further discussion, we'll go ahead with the vote on first reading. All in favor of Board Policy 1310, parental involvement, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Crane.
Welcome.
We'll now move on to Board Policy 4040-7310, Staff-Student Relations, on first reading. Welcome, Dr. Matilla.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, I'm bringing policy 4040-7310, staff and student relations for first reading. This is a revised policy, and revisions were recommended by the North Carolina School Board Association and our staff to comply with new law 2023-128, Protect Our Students Act. You can find the school board's revisions in red, staff's revisions are in blue, and they do include the feedback from the policy committee on page 4 there, so that we didn't lose the reference to sexual offenses, but also made clear that GS 115C 270 isn't limited to sexual offenses. Revisions were shared and approved at the November 28th policy committee, and tonight we're requesting the board's approval of the first reading of policy 4040-7310.
Thank you, Dr. Matillo. Is there a motion to approve Board Policy 4040-7310 on first reading for discussion?
So moved.
There's a motion by Ms. Waters, Vice Chair Waters, a second by Ms. Caulfield. Are there any board comments, or are there any questions for Dr. Matillo? Seeing none, I'll just say I want to thank staff for hearing our discussion during policy committee and making those changes. I think those are important, and I thought we had good discussion on that.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the feedback.
All right, then. All in favor of Board Policy 4040-7310 on first reading, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Continuing on, Board Policy 4240-7312, child abuse and related threats to child safety on first reading. Welcome.
Good evening. Good to see you this evening. Tonight I bring policy 4240-7312, child abuse and related threats for child safety for first reading. This is a revised policy also, and revisions were recommended by the North Carolina School Boards Association and our staff, also in alignment with what the policy we just mentioned. You can find the North Carolina School Board's revisions in red and staff revisions in blue, again in alignment with what Dr. Matillo just mentioned, and included in the revision by the policy committee on page 3, as well as a hyperlink to the statute on the legal references on page 5. So those are included. These revisions were shared and approved at the November 28 policy committee meeting. Tonight, we request the board's approval of first reading of policy 4240-7312, child abuse and related threats for child safety.
All right, thank you, Ms. Woodson. At this time, is there a motion to approve policy 4240-7312?
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion from Vice Chair Waters and a second from Ms. Mahaffey. All right. Any questions for Ms. Woodson or any board comments? Again, I thought we had good discussion of this in policy committee. It's good to see the policy here. If there are no changes, as if there are no questions or discussion, we will put it to a vote. Got off easy, Ms. Woodson. All right. All in favor of adopting board policy 4240-7312 on first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, at this point, we are at the point of our agenda where we would move into closed session. Do we have a motion to go into closed session for the statutory reasons cited in the published précis?
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Waters. We have a second from Mr. Swanson. All in favor of going into closed session for the stated reasons, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the board is now in closed session. Thank you very much.